Okay, our next item is a roll call of board members. Casey, could you do that?
John is not here. Tim Clark,
Here?
Sarah Bashinsky, here. Audra Aw, here. Chris Coucher,
Here.
and Ken Chester.
Here.
Great. Our next item is an acceptance of the agenda. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda as presented? Chris, seconded. Sarah? All in favor? Carried. Next up, we have a segment for community comments. Have there been any community comments put in?
We do not.
Okay. Moving on to presentations, we were due for a BOCES presentation, but they weren't able to come due to inclement weather. We're going to move on to a capital project presentation. We just had our capital project meeting upstairs, and they're just going to give a brief summary for the public about where we are in the project progress. So if you guys could stand up and give a little spiel.
Okay, well, good evening. We'll maybe introduce ourselves here. Some of you, I think we know. I'm Pam Hamill, architect with Tetra Tech Architects and Engineers. We're the AE for the project.
Good evening, my name is John Feuerbach. I'm the mechanical engineer for the project.
Eric Robert with Schoolhouse. We're serving as the district's construction manager for the project.
Paul Moy, I'm Senior Project Manager for Schoolhouse Construction.
Jacob Mountain, Project Manager, Schoolhouse Construction.
So as Tim noted, we were here for a facilities committee meeting earlier. We've passed out a capital project timeline for reference. We've got, these things take a long time, and we're basically in the second year of it. The dashed vertical red line is where we are now. Headed towards the end of what we call design development. So over the last 4 or 5 months, we've been doing field work, we've been meeting with end user groups, people, different representatives from the district. We've done probably 4 or 5 different meetings for different components and pieces, and we work ourselves down from locations of walls down to specifics of how we key different cabinets. So we're kind of going through that process. In a couple weeks, we'll be having what we call a very detailed design development review. I think we've got some draft drawings here. So this is for this project. We'll start, these are half-size scale, but from Tetra Tech's perspective, there's actually a team of approximately between 15 and 20 different architects and engineers of all types. We have interior designers, and so we provide not only the drawings, which will be used to go out to bid to interested contractors, but there'll be associated technical specifications and contractual requirements. So we work closely with Schoolhouse, the district's attorney, in developing those different parts and pieces. We are looking to go to the State Education Department, Facilities Planning. They are the entity that is responsible for giving the district its building permit. That's a unique situation in New York State. We will do that in the end of February, early March, looking to have review from SED late summer, early fall, which lines us up for bidding of the project next fall and getting into the pre-construction phase. So that's part where we'll be evaluating with Schoolhouse, the contractors, contracts will be developed. They'll be doing shop drawings and submittals for the different pieces and parts of the project. And then construction will start summer 2026 and summer 2027. Once we get to a more defined detail level on the drawings, we'll actually start working closely with the district for a detailed schedule of what pieces and parts will be in what summer. Any questions on the schedule?
Pam, could you give just a quick overview of why this timeline fits us specifically? It's a little more extended than some school projects I've been affiliated with.
I was just gonna ask that question.
But there's, I can smell the smoke from over here. I can smell the smoke. So if you could explain the reason why it's beneficial for us to pace this way, it would be helpful.
Definitely. This schedule was developed originally in pre-RAF and with the assistance of the district's fiscal advisor, Bernie Donigans. Essentially, the district's max cost allowances, which is the amount the district will pay building aid on, will get revamped in May of 2025.
It's a financial reason why it's going out 2 years from vote, is basically the reason. I'm just asking, because I was looking
It
here
is.
into construction, and I noticed it's almost 2 years to the date from construction to vote. It's for aid purposes, why it took so long.
It is for aid purposes, but also the amount of time it takes to actually be ready to start putting shovels and tearing apart walls.
I've been on a school board going back over 30 years, about a lot. I don't know, a lot of years, over a decade. In a couple projects. And it was nothing like, I mean, taking the time to get shoveled to the ground does not take 2 years on these, on a $14.9 million project. This is not a big project. You guys do projects much bigger than this. 2 years is a huge, huge time frame. It wasn't that. I want to understand what are the barriers and why the length, what's happening with the aid. What are the reasons why we got to go 2 years from a date in order to get the high aid and stuff? I just am looking for answers.
The district is still paying for previous projects.
This previous aid isn't
So
off the
it's-
books.
It's financing, and when
We're
that
waiting for
financing
one to
comes
drop off
off.
so that we can carry this one on.
Okay, and by approving that ahead of time, it just gave you guys longer time to plan the project and get it ahead of time. But we would, either way, we would not have been financially ready to go until we get this would have been the construction date, whether we waited or went full.
Right, and as we start to get into more detailed construction schedule, there might be components of it that don't have long lead times, that potentially, maybe exterior site work could start earlier. One thing that, a big part of this project involves mechanical equipment, and some of the larger mechanical equipment, you're looking at, 20
Sometimes
to
those
40
are- Yeah,
lead
6
times.
weeks, 6 months.
Yeah.
Lead time is very possible, sometimes even longer.
Okay. I appreciate the information. The reason why I ask mostly is because there's got to be questions, and people don't see this, but once they do, they say, boy, we voted for that in 2024 in April, now you're going to start. These are taped, people are watching, they have an explanation of why we're stopping now. And starting, or it's not starting until April of 2026 with construction, because other debt has to come off the books. Is that pretty much clear? Correct. And then you guys we're all benefiting from the extra time to prep and all that kind of stuff. Okay, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, about 12, 15 years ago, the state changed the laws. It used to be every project with that max cost allowance. They changed that to be able to better manage their costs. And with that, sort of the smaller multiple submissions were really frowned upon. It makes sense to have the larger projects at approximately 5 to 10 year span
Right.
in order to effectively utilize aid.
I think one thing I can share maybe to help with your points, it certainly has crossed my mind seeing this long time frame. We had this milestone in May that Pam brings up that we have to wait for, and I thought, geez, could we squeeze it in and get a vote the later part of May or June? Well, for some of you who've done projects and have bid in the spring, it's the worst. That's when the numbers climb up. Contractors are typically busy then. They have their year planned out, and the responsible ones will shy away Some of the others will say, well, I'll take on one more job, but I'm going to get a number that I really want on it. So it hasn't, it's crossed my mind, geez, do we try to pitch and toe this in? And well, first of all, we have the time frame of the review and so forth that pushes us into the summer. But then really, the fall is when we have the best success in attracting bidders. And this project here is mechanical heavy. We got a generator with long lead time, other components with lead times. So it seems, even though I hate to wait, it seems to make the most sense really to wait till the fall to get it in.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
One more note is right now SED review time is close to 6 months, and that used to be a bit shorter. And so that's also just something else that's something to like that.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Great.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome to head home.
Enjoy your holidays, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy
Take care.
holidays.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you.
Happy holidays, take care, Merry Christmas.
Okay, next up, we have a branding presentation that Ben is gonna.
Yes, I'm working with Ryan Herman here, who facilitated our branding committee. As I had briefed this board a couple of different times throughout the fall, we put together a cross-section of employees with the district. Jessica Smotko was in the back there. She was on the branding committee. We had Paige Toomey, we had John Boucher, Kate Singleton was on there. Of course, I'm drawing a blank. Ryan, of course,
Yeah.
teacher for us here and also does all of our PR and our social
And
media.
Geek Supernaut.
Keek Supernaut was on there, myself, and Trampoline is a company that the lead designer for us is a graduate of Fort Edward, so he did a lot of work for us on this one. What we're here tonight to do is show you what the committee has put together as what we feel is the brand for Fort Edward going forward. It's a nice combination of taking some things that we put a lot of thought into to put together in a complete branding package for the school district. And as I said, Ryan facilitated this for us in his capacity with our public relations. So Ryan, I'm going to turn it over to you and I'll jump in and interject as we go.
Okay. So we've been working with Trampoline. We started back with them during the building project. They did a bunch of social media and print media for our marketing, or the marketing of the capital project. And then this year we've transitioned into doing our branding. So kind of this is what we have now. We use the FE in places. We also use the circle logo. And there's kind of our header on our website to show the fonts that we've been using. So when we looked at our rebranding, we wanted a primary font that we would use, a new FE monogram or work on the monogram we had, Fort script, mascot, and we wanted a specific blue color. So when we go to printing services, we can say this is our exact color and they know exactly what we're talking about, because blues are very difficult to print. Sometimes they go on purple, sometimes they come out a whole gambit. And so we worked with them, and some of the key areas that we wanted to keep the tradition was a big part. Pride, community, strength. We want to keep it simple and timeless, academic, and athletic. So working, I'm gonna get this off here. So working with them, here's kind of the first look at it. So this would be our school's font that we chose, and you can see our logo, and it would be used two different ways. This would be the main way. This would be a secondary way made for like a website. This would be our school seal right here, and our monogram. You're going to see some other additional items here in a second. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
And then you can see it in the opposite.
I like the blue. I can actually see.
The blue is, believe it or not, very difficult. Lots of blues look great until you print them out of our copy machine here. or put them on the web and they look completely different than anything we sent home.
On the screen it looks great.
Yeah, so this one we chose because it looks like Fort Edward Blue to us, and it printed pretty well across everything and looked kind of like what the screen looks like. That's our fonts here. So you can see our fonts that we're going to use. This is, there's just a couple of variations. You'll see them start to take over on the website and documents that go home. So kind of one of our overarching goals is here. If you get anything from the school, you're going to know it's from us. Kind of like any business, when you get something from them, it looks like it's from them. So everything will slowly start to tie together. You can see our FE monogram here. And then here's a fourth script. This is what you would probably see on a jersey right here. So this would be what would be on the basketball and volleyball jerseys. And if you did shirts, you can kind of see some examples down here of how you can tie the names of the other sports in. I think we might have lost the font. We kind of converted from PDF here. But in real life, this part's rounded. I think we had some technical difficulties. We had to use a PowerPoint instead of the one they sent us.
I don't know that it even matters. That looks pretty sharp.
Yeah, when, if you could you go back to the monogram?
Yes.
This monogram looks very similar to what we currently have.
Yes.
There are some other parts of what you're going to see that are different. We had more conversation about this topic. You'd think we were trying to go to the moon.
Which one?
Deciding whether to make this fancier or more
This one
modern,
right here?
or sticking with something that is
How do you change
traditional
F and E?
and timeless.
How do you change F and E?
And so we went round and round, and we had examples that looked kind of like the New York Mets with a little bit of flair on the ends. We had things that looked like something from Minecraft. We had something that was a combination of both.
Yeah.
And in the end, we all decided we would arm wrestle at the table, and we finally decided, actually, since one of our criteria was pride and tradition, that rebranding doesn't always mean something being completely brand new.
I think so. If it's pride, somebody better go ask Andy Fisher.
The FE is the one thing that we decided that is very similar to what we already have. The Forts is just different enough that it gives it a nice look, and the swoosh, I'll call it the swoosh, the tail of the S, it makes a nice platform for putting the sports underneath it. Or some other club, your drama club, you could put your music department, whatever. It doesn't have to be just for athletics. It could put anything that wants to identify them as being associated with Fort Edward can go underneath there on their sweatshirts, their t-shirts, however you want to do it. So that one is a complete
Yeah. And what you're seeing here is the result of hours of going over this stuff and looking at lots of them. Lots of discussion and arguing and little minute details. So you can see it in reverse.
I like the blue.
yeah, blue is sharp with the white.
So there's on some jerseys.
Yeah, that looks nice.
That looks nice.
You know, Paige Toomey stressed about this because she figures, you know what, her family's been, obviously everybody knows this, I'm the new guy. Everybody knows the connection to the district. But the stress that we all kind of did, but she articulated, we gotta get this right. Like, we can't screw this up because it might be 50, 70 years before they reconsider this, you know? So it's not something you're gonna do every couple of years, and so.
Is this the most significant of the changes, like that we're gonna say right here? Like, it's to design, because if it's not any more significant than this, I don't think you have anything to worry about as far as making mistakes. They look very good.
Conscientious people.
They look very
Wanted to
good.
Make sure they
I
got
think
it
the
right.
biggest, if you kept that, since you kept the F and the E together, I think you're good with like the old timers. And now you got the new guys.
Well, there's one bigger change coming. I think you'll like it.
Keep it up, Brian.
I think you're gonna like it.
Okay.
The new plane.
Oh,
That's what we spent a lot of time on.
That's just a touch better, huh?
Yeah. So this is the standard one. that would be used most places, but if you have to put it on something that has a background, we did have the gray around it.
You know what? I would love to see that in a circle of the gym.
Well, we might have an example of what that looks like for you in the slideshow here. There's, here are a couple of things. The turrets, there was a lot of conversation about the turrets. It's a bomber. A bomber had guns. We're a public school. Guns on public school logos, not a good thing. But we did have versions that looked like just planes because they didn't want the turrets. Well, it kind of defeats the purpose of the fact that the bomber is part of the history. So we have to give some indication of reflecting that. So the turrets were done a couple of different times to make them look like turrets, but without the guns being affiliated with them. And then the FE on the plane, if you can see it from where you're sitting, the FE on the plane rather than the military star is a super nice touch.
And I can attest, we have spent hours looking at planes and redrawing planes.
It's a great, it's a very, redrawing?
Yeah, making modifications to this, and this is not the first one we saw. We saw lots.
Yeah, I didn't know if you did like a lot of different ones, or you just made changes.
Yeah, to get it to look just how we wanted it.
Wow, it looks very good.
Look at that.
That's what I'm
That
talking about.
looks cool.
I love
So that's a little mock-up of what the gym might look like someday.
That's what I'm talking about. Bring it.
You can see it uses our school font. This will be adopted for us. It's got all our logos on there.
I don't know whether we want to go with the NBA 3-4 line, but maybe.
That would be so cool. No.
Get it done,
That
Audra.
would be so cool.
That's great, guys. Good job.
it. That looks very sharp.
Yeah. We would be such a fancy
Just look great.
So there's just our specific blue color right there. That was one of my key requirements to have Pantone here. That's a coloring system. When you order colors, they're like a company, you can order that exact color if you wanted to. We maybe would never order that exact color because it's very expensive, but we could tell anybody that this is our color and they can usually match it. So that's like, that will be our official color right there. And that way, when I'm working with someone making a t-shirt or getting things printed, I can say, this is it, because they always ask me, we don't have one. So that way we have everything we need. And what Trampoline will provide with us, as soon as the board adopts it, is they'll give us a whole package of everything that we can give out to people to maintain our branding. This is how you use it, this is how you don't use it.
You know, if I'm thinking back correctly, when they first put blue on the court, it was like between 87 and, or 97 and 87 and 89, maybe? And I don't think they've changed the design since then. Because I remember my brother was almost a junior or a senior when that happened. It's been pretty stale in there. It's a long time.
And then you can kind of see everything put together. So that's our logo suite right there. Yep.
So all the discussions and everything that you came up with, was any of that to try to get a shirt that would look good on Chris?
Good luck. All right, Steve, I'll give you that
So as Ryan has mentioned, and the committee did a great job of just trying to protect the history, the integrity of what's always existed here with some new modern touches to give us a new suite. The idea is here, there's a board motion to, approve our brand. That gives us, then Trampoline will give us the suite, as he calls it, the package deal that we will then use for everything going forward. This is what Fort Edward's going to look like going forward. If vendors want to do business with us, they have to do business within this suite. If our clubs, clubs and teams want to order things, this is it. We want to do rebranding around the building, different things, signs and things around, bring out the blue color more along our facilities within our hallways, our lobbies. Certainly the gym floor is a big one. This is going to be what everybody in the region is going to come to know of as the Fort Edward Blue. That's Fort Edward logo. You know, the letterhead, everything is going to be very standardized. And if anybody wants to sell our stuff, the fact that you board adopted it, they need to sell our brand and not something that they've taken that's close and reworked it. So it gives us some uniformity. Not to take away from the historical stuff that's out there, that's the beauty of history, is it's always out there and people will always have those logos. But this is, the intent of this is to create the brand for Fort Edward going forward from this.
So as soon as it's adopted, you'll start to see everything transitioning over to us.
One shade of blue and not 50 different shades, right?
One shade, so you're gonna see everything. And the old ones won't be used anymore. So the circle and the stars will be gone away.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great.
Glad you guys liked it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It was really a team effort though, it wasn't just me, it was, Jess was on there. Jess can attest, we spent a lot of time looking at that stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't just thinking you, Ryan.
Yeah,
All right.
Just for the presentation.
all right. I'll leave it up in case you want
Thank
to
all
look
of you.
at
It
it.
looks good.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate all your time with it. Thank you.
Okay, the next section of our meeting is administrative reports. First up, superintendent report.
Great, thanks everyone. Earlier this year, actually at the last meeting, I presented the opioid policy for your consideration and brought it to you just as a discussion topic to talk about needing to create a policy that would allow us to have people volunteer trained. You supported it verbally that evening. We started moving forward with it, but what I'm asking this evening is you're going to have your, officially this is your first reading of that policy. It's no different than the one that we talked about before. It authorizes our nurse to order the material. It authorizes us to offer a volunteer training program for any of our staff that would like to participate in it, and then to maintain it with the overseeance of our school doctor, and then placing it around the school in our AED machine. So that policy is the same. What I'm asking for is that later on we waive the second reading so that we can start moving forward with getting the trainings in place, as we have some superintendent days available, and our school nurse, Jennifer Ballard, needs to do some work in preparation for those things. So that's one thing that I wanted to move forward rather than taking another month to have a second reading and slow that process down. It's going to start a project. I've had conversations with the administrative team on this, and Casey and I have spent a lot of time talking about it. Just one of those things where I want to put something in place for Fort Edward that is a universal tool that you can use going forward, but a complete and comprehensive human resource manual for the school district that will be developed using our current practices and or any modifications that we're making to our human resource practices here in the district, which includes everything from determining that we need a position to creating the position either at civil service level, at the board level, posting for it, interviewing for it, bringing the person forward for hire, their onboarding procedures, all the way through till the professional development and remediation. We're beginning to work on that manual, if you will, so that it's irregardless of who holds what title in the district, the procedures are in place. So as people change, as people come and go, how we hire and how we take care of them, and procedurally how they should file paperwork with the business office, all those things are in one nice, concise location. We've got a lot of stuff. It's all over the place. We want to tie it together and have a nice human resource manual that covers all areas of the district. Casey's sweating it. She knows there's a lot of typing involved. And a lot of it will flow through the central office, the business office, with component additions being added from other departments. Work in progress. Hope to have that done, before the end of the school year, because it is quite a monumental task. Through your school board information that you receive, I don't know if you're aware, but there's been some amendments to the regionalization. I won't take a lot of time with it, but not so much in this region, but in other parts of the state. The concept of regionalization has been a real hot topic with concerns for districts feeling like they're going to start to lose local control of some decision-making if they agree to participate with BOCES in regionalization. Downstate, they felt it might impact some of their aid ratios if they participate in regionalization. So the Board of Regents put forth some key revisions in the language, and the two biggest ones, clarification on monitoring of this, is that any suggested amendments to a regionalization plan that is submitted by the BOCES superintendent is strictly advisory and not mandatory. So if there's a regionalization plan out there, it's up to the individual district to decide if they want to participate in it. So originally, when the regulations came out for regionalization, it indicated that you pretty much were going to need to be a part of it. So the second part leads me to, it's a voluntary participation in whether you want to be in a regionalization effort with your BOCES or not. So at this point, we can kind of see how things play out. There is some benefits to small schools, being able to collaborate with a larger contingent of schools and of BOCES, but there are some protections in there if it gets to a point where you feel like you're uncomfortable as a school district, like you're starting to lose some control. So those amendments were put into place by the Board of Regents to hopefully make people feel more comfortable in the concept.
How much effort was it for us to prepare our documents package to send in?
We had a team start with the process, and we got about 3/4 of the way through it, and then we had a slight power outage. But a lot of it for us, because of our size, a lot of it was cut and paste because of the questions they asked. Our academic program was the same no matter what. We don't have a lot of electives. We don't have we don't have multiple high schools like the other districts in the state have multiple high schools, multiple middle schools. So we were able to do it pretty quickly. So our report was pretty straightforward in comparison. What's going to happen now, though, is there's 31 component school districts that all did those. They get submitted to Dr. Parker. She's going to put a committee together to try and take all that information and come up with a regional plan of who has the greatest strengths in these areas, who has the greatest weaknesses, and what can we do to try and, make it a more level playing field so that all the kids in the region are getting the same type of program, one way or the other, whether you do it in-house or whether you participate in sharing services with another district. The barriers still exist and will always exist unless the state changes, and that's if our calendars aren't unified, it's tough to truly collaborate with another district on anything. That'll always be the barrier. Your calendars have to be aligned so that when we're on break, everybody's on break, and vice versa. So stay tuned for that one, but they have already started to hear and make some adjustments. Foundation aid, the Rockefeller Foundation is out with their 277-page document that aid needs to be revised in the state of New York. Chris, you've read it, right? I'm sure, from cover to cover. I read the executive summary. There are some potential real positives. One being the fund balance that you're allowed to carry now is at 4%. They are considering raising it to 10%, which is more of a reasonable number for school districts to carry in their fund balance for emergencies. However, you start to read the small print, if you're over 10, there could be significant penalties for you that you currently don't feel now except a slap on the wrist. So it's in the very beginning phases of superintendents and business administrators of trying to understand it, but the report's been issued, it's in the governor's hands, we'll see what she wants to do with it as the next step. Chris?
When we just moved some money over, we moved it to a reserve that we can actually move from, right, to other places. Will that still be available under the 10%? Will you still be able to put it in reserve that you're allowed to move it from?
It is with the problem.
Unrestricted, I guess.
Some of the problem with our reserves is right now we're already hitting some of the max. So we also by law can only put them in like a certain amount in each reserve.
Well, how many reserves do you need, Chris?
Well,
How many
the
can
one-
you have?
The one that we're specifically talking about, that Evlar one, it's actually capped out. So we're getting close to that high level. So we have to figure out other ways. Maybe we can put it into a capital project. So we can kind of put it for future use. So as
We gotta do something where we have disaster plan money. You know, we can't be putting stuff in, taking all of our money because they set a cap and say if you have your money in there, you're gonna get penalized. And so we can't do like an emergency thing, something we have to go to vote for, you know? We have to have money for that. We have to be able to put it in unreserved, somewhere where we can take it in an emergency.
And I understand the culture, I know the history of Fort Edward. Right now, we are in such a really good financial place, and this is what my position's about, so I can, with the fiscal advisors that I met with again today, we have a really good comfort zone of how we're navigating. So again, I know some of it is trying to buy you guys into the fact that we've had historical problems in the past. We're definitely navigating in better ways, and we're moving our forward in a great
Well, the thing
place.
is, it always hasn't been. Like, there's been good times, but then you get hit something like when Patterson came with gap elimination, where you get less aid every year.
Correct.
Try to deal with that when salaries and everything else is going on.
Correct.
And that hurt here, real bad. So that's what I worry about. Like, if we're not accumulating and having aid that we can put aside, when stuff like that happens, how are we gonna balance our budgets if we don't have enough to put aside?
The other item in the report, it doesn't specify how the state should do this, but it is an independent foundation that is making this recommendation to the governor and our politicians, is that our required implementation of more mental health capacity for our students, the electric bus conversion, and the impending new graduation requirements when they roll out. They say the state can ask districts to have to do all three of those things without fully funding them from the state of New York. You already are being asked as a public school to be the Walmart of servicing your community, one-stop shopping, which I agree with the philosophy, but there needs to be a funding structure in place from the state to say, you're mandated to do it, but we're not going to help pay for it. So it's nice to have an outside agency take a look at this and say, what you're asking them to do is not fair unless you provide additional funding. We'll see where that conversation goes, but it's nice to have an outside set of eyes on it. And my last item, as you know, I've been meeting or attempting to meet with every employee in the district. I've had 29 roundtables to this point, either in small group or individual, and I am on track still to this point, Casey, if I'm correct, to be completed by the holiday break, having spent at least a half an hour to 45 minutes with every employee in the district, and it is fascinating conversation. Can't wait to put it all together.
Interesting to hear.
Yes, very interesting.
There's a lot of conversation.
Yep. I listen 3 times more than I speak, except in a board meeting. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. Next up, business office report. Chris Rader?
Yes, hello everyone. So as I mentioned, I met with Sarah Bradshaw today, fiscal advisors from Bernie Donegan, and just again troubleshooting some concepts I have to kind of balance our budget and to kind of come up with some conceptuals again as we navigate forward. I also met with our teams department for each department from December the 2nd, last Monday through Friday. So I have a better clarity on the needs and the wants of each department. And on January 13th, I just want to remind you that we have our first workshop, which is exciting. I love this. So again, I'm always walking around with smiles because I just love this time of year. But it's staffing, estimated salaries with all of our staff, benefits, again, with our medical, dental, our retirement, social security, workers' comp, other special education, BOCES, our debt service, and interfund transfers. So that's what we'll be covering for our first workshop. And most of that has either been developed or will be done by probably the weekend. And therefore, I will be able to work alongside Ben to be able to come up with a good presentation for that January 13th meeting. So that's all I have.
Thanks, sir.
Great. On to building principal report.
Great. A
Good evening. I'm going to report out about attendance. We are at 92.2% overall, dropped almost a point in attendance since last meeting. Our 11th and 9th grades are the two that could use the most help at 89 and 88% respectively. But our 2nd and 8th graders have been here, it's 95% attendance there. We are doing an incentive for the junior senior high, where if they miss fewer than 2 days from December 2nd till February 14th and have no disciplinary referrals, there'll be an incentive for them. So again, trying to get kids here because they can't learn if they're not here, and have them follow the rules. Athletics, winter season is underway. We've got 10 boys playing varsity basketball, 9 on JV, 7 on modified, plus a manager. We've got 9 girls playing JV basketball, 10 on modified. We have 7 bowlers from Fort Edward. We're merged with Argyle. We've got 13 cheerleaders this year, 3 of whom also play basketball. We have 8 kids signed up right now for unified bowling. So pretty decent, a number of our students are participating percentage-wise, so that's great.
Just an update for you guys for next year. There's 16 kids on the 5th, 6th.
Nice.
11 of them are 6th graders, so you're gonna be good going into next year's modified.
Nice. Oh, that's fabulous. That is fabulous. Midterms and regents will happen at the end of January, and that schedule will be done before break, so that can go out to parents and to the faculty and staff. And just a reminder that tomorrow at 6:30 is our chorus concert, elementary through high school, and next Tuesday is band, elementary through high school. That's what I have.
Great, thank you. Any quick questions?
Oh, can I ask one thing? A while back, I brought up that years ago, we switched from whatever time per day of ELA and math. That was probably, I don't know if it was 40 or 60 minutes, but we went to 80. It's part of something that we were doing. Do you think you could dig us up some feedback on that? Not a feedback, but maybe some numbers about kind of how we were doing before we did that and kind of how we're doing after, so that we can see like what how that's affected it. I mean, it's a lot of school day that we're using it with elementary kids, and how much are they retained? If junior high and high school kids are doing 40 to 45 minutes a day of each math, and how much of, if they're doing 80 in elementary, how much of that are they retaining? You know, I think that's something to
comparing
look.
the test scores.
Just kind of how were we doing before and how are we doing now?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe just take a look at that, maybe,
Yeah.
you know, give it to Mr. Halsey and have him take a look at it, and then maybe there'll be something, you know, maybe it's something that we need to look at.
Sure,
Because
absolutely.
that's a long time, 80 minutes to sit in the class with one subject, both of those subjects a day.
Yeah,
You
it
know.
is, it's a lot.
And sometimes I think here, we do something, there might not be results, but we just keep doing it. And it might not be the best thing, so maybe look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm making a note of that right now.
That's a long time to do numbers.
Okay, next up we have our pupil services report. Mrs. Lansley is absent, but Mr. Halsey is going to give that.
Okay, yep. Mallory couldn't be here this evening. She wanted to share out 3 things. On the 23rd of November, 10 Fort Edward staff attended the polar plunge for New York Special Olympics. She reports it was a great time by all. They plan to make it an annual tradition, and the frozen Fort Edward team raised over $1,000 for Special Olympics.
Great.
All 504 annual meetings have been held, and they hope to have IEP annual review schedule created by the 20th of this month. All special education teachers that teach alternatively assessed students have completed the required training as of today, and this will allow our staff to administer the New York State Alternative Assessment Testing Program, which begins in March.
Okay, thank you. On to building maintenance report. Steve.
Good evening, everybody. Not too bad. We got a lot of painting done over the Thanksgiving holiday. The backstage got all painted flat black. So now your chorus that's going to happen tomorrow and the band and everything should no more yellow wall behind them, and all of that. It's all been painted flat black. We also got Mr. Halsey's room all redone over there. Got him looking pretty spiffy over there. We got his office yet to do and the copy room, but Casey's office and the bathroom and everything got a fresh coat of paint. Looks pretty nice over there. I've been doing some stuff with the new steamer that's coming in. They got a grant for $30,000 for that steamer for the kitchen. That's through the BOCES grant. And I thought it was going to be an easy, I tore it all out, disconnected everything, took the old one out of there. Thought it was going to be an easy hookup. You come find out it's going to be a little different. So the electrical, we've got to redo. We've got to go with a bigger breaker and heavier wire, and we've got to go with 3/4 inch pipe and not the 1/2 inch because it requires more volume. And so just a little minor technicality we got to redo. So that's in the works. And I've been in a lot of rooms. We talked about with Tetra Tech today about different things you'll see and hear, and one of them is I've replacing a lot of the controllers. It's a small electrical box in each uni vent. That one behind you has one in there, and they have their 1994 vintage, and some of them are going bad. So what's happening is it won't read, it won't heat right, a lot of things happen. So
How many of them are there?
everyone has one.
Yeah, how many of them are there? Do you have an idea?
Oh, probably in the school, probably I would say maybe 60 of them.
Wow.
So, but what's happening is some of that in the other room, in the elementary, working with John Furback, who you met tonight, working with John on that aspect of it, putting the new controllers in for the air conditioning. New uni vents have to go in for that. And so that'll save us from, we were just going to replace controllers, but that whole elementary second floor is going to get all new units. Those units, when we replace them, I'll get the controllers. So then I can use them controllers downstairs and in the high school.
Okay.
So that'll save some money there when the rest of them go bad. So I've been working on a lot of different heating problems, as what happens every year when we turn the heat on and it starts getting cold. That's when things start not working right. Other than that, working on some leaks on the roof. With this wet snow and different things on the roof, that's when things show up. So trying to maintain the roof system until we can get to the capital project, kind of Band-Aid it until we can get these areas of concern fixed. That's what I'm working on. That's my report.
Okay, great. Next up on our agenda, we have a policy reading that Ben mentioned earlier. This is the first reading of policy number 7523, opioid overdose prevention. We don't need to read the entire thing, but if any members of the public want a copy, please contact the board clerk. And we'll be taking no action at this item, but we'll be voting on it in a few minutes. Following into the agenda to our consent agenda. These are items that we do every meeting. We have approval of previous board minutes, approved treasurer reports, and approved CPSE recommendations, and we usually group them together to vote. So can I have a motion to approve items A through C on the consent agenda? Okay, Audra and Sarah seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Moving on to our action items. We're going to go through these individually. I'd like to recognize the donations. So 7A, we have a donation of $503 from the Fort Edward class of 1974 for the backpack program. Can I get a motion to approve that? Okay, Audra and Ken. Any discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor? Carried. Next up, item B, we have a donation from Urban Tissue. This will be accepting a generous donation of $13,000 from Urban Tissue for the after-school enrichment program. Can I get a motion for that? Audra and Chris, any discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Next up, item C, donation from Jade Zagorski to accept the generous donation of a gymnastics mat from Mrs. Zagorski. Can I get a motion for that? Sarah and Chris, any discussion? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Okay, next up is to adopt the policy number 7523, opioid overdose prevention. This is also skipping the second reading, which is normal.
Yes.
Okay.
Quite often it is, unless you would ask me to make revisions and bring it back to you.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve that policy? Ken and Chris? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
And the last on that section is E, fixed asset auction. Need a motion to approve the auction of an unused kitchen mixer in accordance with our sale and disposal policy. Can I get a motion for that? Chris and Ken, all in favor? Carried. Great. Next up in our agenda is a personnel section. I'd like to remind everybody all appointments are subject to change and compensation proration, pending emergency school closing, required reductions in force. All coaching appointments are made pending completion and verification of all required coaching credentials, with a stipend per the FIDA contract, commensurate with experience and no benefits. All coaching, extracurricular appointments are subject to reduction in compensation proration, pending final student enrollment numbers, pending the outcome of any potential mergers and emergency school closings. I'd like to group these A through Q together. Can I get a motion to accept A through Q in the personnel section? Audra and Chris, any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, then moving on to item R. This is to accept the resignation of Aaron Russo, our building principal. Can I get a motion to accept that resignation? Ken, second? Second by Chris. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you
thank
all.
you so much. I think you had a great impact here.
Thank you. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here, and I'm definitely not fleeing the fort. I'm just going to live in my own home with my husband and my dog instead of living away during the week. So that's really the whole motivation for the move. So thank you so much for the opportunity to serve here, and I will come back and visit. I feel like I'm always going to be part for it. So
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
They get lots of snow days.
They do.
Yes, they do. Every time Ichabod Crane.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Next section, coaching. All appointments are subject to change in compensation proration pending emergency school closing and required reductions in force. All coaching appointments are made pending completion and verification. We already covered that previously.
I'll note that B and C should have been under section 7.
Oh,
I
yeah.
accidentally put those in coaching.
Oh, you're right.
Those should have been in action items above.
Yeah.
Want to renumber them?
Yeah, can we move those to agenda, action, section 7, F and G?
Sounds good.
So that was old items B and C.
Yes. The, 9A does apply to coaching.
That
It's
is
a
coaching.
resolution to change the rate, but that does apply to coaching, so that is an appropriate place for that. But then 7B could turn, or B could turn into 7F, and then 7G.
Yeah. Let's put a pin in that coaching item, go back up to action items. Can I get a motion to adopt the new item 7F, resolution to adopt branding? And we have language in there that you can read if you want. This is to adopt the branding that Mr. Herman and Mr. Halsey presented earlier. Can I get a motion on that? Sarah and Audra? Any discussion?
Looks amazing.
Yeah. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item will be, this is the old item 9C, but it's the new item 7G. It's a resolution regarding the Board of Education's 2025 advocacy priorities. These are listed in the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve these advocacy priorities? Audra
I think I'm the only one.
and Sarah? Discussion? I think these are mostly NISBA items, right? Like it's just copy and pasted from NISBA's
From the state association.
ideas?
Yes.
Yeah. Question, discussion? We're doing discussion?
Oh, no, I thought you were ready to roll.
Nope.
Do you want to discuss it?
All in
Okay.
favor? All right, all in
I was just
favor?
reading it.
All in favor?
Okay, carried. Okay, that closes out our action items. Moving back down to section 9, coaching. We have item 9A, resolution amending the rate of pay. Can I get a motion for that, 9A?
For coaches?
No,
It's for a single coach.
Oh, okay, never, I didn't need to know that.
Motion Chris, second Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. At this point in our meeting, we have time for a second public comment period. Casey, were there any public comments that came
I
in?
thought maybe they got a new rate in their contract or something.
No. All right, at this time, we need to have an executive session. I'd like to remind the board, members and other individuals, that all matters discussed in the executive session was kept in strictest confidence. I need a motion to enter the executive session. Audra and Ken, all in favor? Great, we are in executive. Sandy, can you pause that thing?
Yep, if you do not intend to conduct any business after exec, we can end the live stream if that's okay,
Do we need to conduct business?
other than closing the meeting, obviously.
No.
No, we're not.
Information.
Okay.
And your